We waited 311 days to see BBQ back on the court. And like all of Raptors Twitter, let's make the same joke. Were they cooked? Were they smoked? No matter what it was ugly against the Bucks. Are we concerned, or is this just a one-off?
You're concerned if you want wins.
Defense is going to be a problem.
I'm impressed you did the math and counted that many days.
Google. Crazy. He's put in how many days since March 1st? This is Basketball Island. Hein, Hambone, Fab. I want to start with defense because right now we're taping this on a Tuesday. Going back to December 5th, they got one win. That win against Brooklyn, they're 1-13. But if you look at the defensive numbers, it is atrocious. They're bottom of the league in terms of defensive rating, bottom of the league in terms of opponent three-point percentage, opponent field goal percentage. And now when I look when they have this core back, I'm not sure the defense is going to get much better because there's a lot of weak spots on that court.
More than you'd like to admit. I think the sample size is super small, right? Because we haven't barely seen these guys play together. But, we asked a question last night on the broadcast. What, if your starting five is Quickly, RJ, Grady, Pirtle, and Barnes, who are the plus defenders in that lineup? Like Barnes, maybe if his role's diminished.
It's only Scotty, yeah.
Scotty has the potential to be. I mean, he was unbelievable on Giannis one-on-one. We could talk about why they started doubling Giannis like crazy, allowing open threes to other guys. But, I just don't see any plus defenders. Like we were talking about earlier, Grady got targeted. RJ Barrett, we know he can't defend. Quickly was very disappointing in that regard. Quickly also got muscled off of spots, trying to front Giannis. And I get Giannis is a beast, but, I just don't know where the plus defenders are. And if that's your core five, I have hope that some guys will get better. I think Jakob Poeltl can do a better job protecting the rim. But there's no plus guys that you can just say, hey, take this player out of the game or get in his and just kind of hold it down.
Let's flip it, though. How many minus defenders are there?
More than
positive, for sure. I mean, realistically, I don't think you're going to see it this year. I think you're just going to have to take your medicine and hope that offensively they find some level that they get to. You're like, oh, whoa, okay, there's potential here. Defense is going to be a multi-year process. A lot of layers to fixing that because you don't just roll over one night and suddenly your defense is good. I look at other young teams coming up though. The Orlandos of the world, the Houstons of the world. OKC is still young. If you look at the core of what they do, very few holes on defense, and then they figure it out offensively. The Raps are the flip. Can they be so good offensively that they can mask their defense? Maybe there's a world that happens, but right now, I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm not getting my hopes up because the defense is not going to be there this year.
And it's the opposite of the team that they had when they won the title in 2019, where there were no holes to attack. And now it just seems like there's holes everywhere.
It just feels philosophically, it's a very tough change of thought to have in terms of how you're building your team up. Maybe it could work. I don't know. I don't want to be too pessimistic, but what I'm saying is the defense won't happen this year. There's no saving it.
It's like throwing a hot dog down a hallway right now. There's no resistance whatsoever.
I've seen that analogy.
Oh well. They're losing games. This is what we want, right?
That's the thing.
It's true.
Fine, you can be discouraged by how bad their defense looks. That's completely fine. Giving up 150 is never a good look.
Yeah.
No.
And it's kind of odd that they're going in this direction as they're getting healthier. Yeah. Whereas they actually look scrappier when they were undermanned earlier in the year.
First 2 weeks we were doing this, we were like, oh, they're playing scrappy D.
But, as someone said, explore the space.
Explore the space. Explore the space. Right now, let them explore the space. Explore the space, man. Explore the space a little bit. Explore the space, my friend.
Let's throw the chips on the table and let's see what we have. Let's put all these guys on the court and see exactly what they are. And if they prove to be not up to the challenge, then you move on from these guys.
So here's the question then. Is the BBQ core fundamentally flawed to begin with, to the point that they'll never be able to be a plus defense with those three guys playing together?
I wouldn't say fundamentally flawed, but they're definitely going to hang their hat on offense, not defense. And so doing that comparison to a team like Orlando's offense sucks. They're a really offensive team. Houston, same thing. They don't really have a closer, but they're so good on defense that they make up for all of their fallacies. Is there a world where Toronto's offense is so strong that they can make up for an average level defense? Maybe. But right now, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy it right now.
Not.
So for this year, I'm realistically I want to see how good can this offense get with the tools that they have, and then reevaluate what pieces fit better in the years to come. For now, that's all you're asking for, because I think defensively, it's not just going to happen overnight.
I just got shivers.
It's not happening overnight.
I don't think you. Okay, I think you need to remove Barnes from that equation, because I think the issue now is Grady and RJ starting together is already you're starting from a very weak place at the wing.
There's so much to make up.
We saw Grady is in a valley right now. He's being hunted relentlessly, and you know he's in a rough part of the season. He's kind of hitting a sophomore wall. Can you build a coherent starting five with both of those guys on the floor and quickly, and a center who Pirtle's not been great? Whereas, listen, the roster's full of holes. This isn't going to be the team going forward for 2 or 3 years. So once again, see what you have in these guys. Who's a starter? Who's not a starter? Who are you getting in the draft?
And Wes said, like, give it a couple years. Like, are they going to have a couple years? Like, I don't want to see this for a couple years unless you're like tanking those years, like overly tanking, like bottom 5 type stuff. Because, like, quite frankly, man, you need to shore up the defense. Like, you mentioned 2 teams that are very young that are doing it, Orlando and Houston. Like, they've got guys. They just send waves of athletes at you. I think even if you look to the bench, you're bringing Kelly Olynyk in off the bench. The guy can't move. Like, great player once upon a time, but he can't move. Like, Jacoby Walter, like, a lot of mindless stuff. Again, he's a rookie. He's thin. Like, Abaji might be your only, like, plus defender you bring on the bench. Davion Mitchell, but now he's getting benched a little bit in favor of Jamal Shed, which I think is
Abaji is, I mean, Abaji is an okay defender.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him plus. He doesn't.
On this team, he's a stopper.
Yeah, on this team, he's the guy.
But now you guys have both mentioned Orlando and Houston, and those are 2 head coaches though who want to hang their hat on defense. And when we look at Darko, that is not the MO with him at all.
But isn't Darko doing what you need him to do right now?
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but they have the personnel to play that way.
Yes.
Right? Look at the guys they've brought in on both of those teams. They're just dogs all over the place.
Yeah.
The Raptors aren't built that way. So now you can talk about the scheme, because there's a lot of weird, dumb stuff that they're doing, just not communicating, over helping, just like mistakes that are very fixable. So they can get better than what they're doing right now, because I don't know how much worse you can get than.
I think for me, the main thing is that and this might be dumb to look at it, but the way a lot of fans talk and think is that this core is the core. And I think what our eyes are seeing is, like, if that's your core, you ain't winning shit. So, like, we're kind of back to being a rudderless ship, which, yes, lose games for sure, all that.
Yeah.
But, like, the faith that a lot of the fan has in this core, I think, is misguided.
The core depends on who they draft this season and the year after that. That's the stud guy that you want to build around, in my opinion. Like, I think Kia Nurse brought up a good point too. Like, a lot of the defense, a lot of the stuff that we saw yesterday, it suffers when the offense isn't doing the right thing. So, like, very acute, like, good observation was, like, the starting 5, that new starting 5, again, chemistry issues, they haven't played a lot. They don't pass the ball to each other. Like, they just don't move the ball, and they take bad shots, and it leads to runouts for the other team. Like, it was a very, very septic style of offense that we saw against the Bucks. Again, we'll give them time. I don't think the core is good enough defensively, to answer your question.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
I mean, look, that's like the most obvious statement, Captain Obvious. Like, we all know that, right?
But then what is the point of, then this core is not long to be in Toronto then, because you can't win if your defense is going to be that bad.
Exactly.
I mean, so again, we just said it though, it's not the core. So these guys who are going to eventually grow into complementary players to somebody who might be part of, like, the core, you want to see them develop skills and things that will help, the team become a winning team. So I think the main thing for me is game 1 of BBQ, okay? Obviously, it looked very, very shaky. They got a really tough stretch in the schedule coming up over the next 10, 15 games. The good thing about that, to me, I look at it as a positive, because you're not expecting them to win. What type of compete level and what type of hustle and heart are they going to show through these next 10 games where they're going to get crushed if they don't bring their best? And during that, that first 2-3 run of the season, what was great about it was, it wasn't like they were playing amazing. It's just they were competing and they're playing hard. I just want to see, can they get to that level, and what does it look like when they're at that level? Because look, this past game, everyone was passive. Everyone was, like, deferring. No one was really playing with any sense of urgency, and that's how the game really got out of hand. 10 games coming up now. Good quality opponents. No excuses to sleep on any of the nights unless they want to be done by the third quarter. What type of effort are they going to show? That's what I want to see. And it's a good time.
Honestly, man, I don't think we're going to see it, because this team already, losing weighs on you. And you're like, what was it, 1-13 or 1-14 in that stretch? If you keep losing games and you're looking like you're like 1-20, it's going to be tough to get up, man.
But again, it's game one. It's game one of them all being together. So I bet you mentally they're like, look, guys, we get a runway to really test and show what we got, right? We'll see. We'll see whether or not they're able to.
See what happens. Keep the L's coming.
They're coming, right? It's a bad stretch of the schedule, but it's the same thing that happened at the beginning of the year, like against the spread. How strong are you going to be covering these numbers that they have? Do they actually show the way they play? It's about how they play. I don't care whether they win.
He went from betting darlings to like bet the house against. Now they're the alt spread against.
That's what I'm talking about, right?
Honestly, man, like the last earlier in the year, it seemed like like getting to the bottom will be tough. They have a real look at it right now. Like in terms of they already have I think their 4th worst record in the league right now, but they have more losses than 2 of the teams below.
The Pelicans are coming. They're getting healthier. Utah's winning games in South Florida. Like, it's good.
Do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
Take your medicine now. I hope the L's do come, but it's a weird thing. We were talking about this all year. Like, we want to see them develop while losing. I know that's a tough thing to say. Like, that win against the Nets help them stave off a potential 20-game lead.
Yeah, you don't want to be historical, but once again, if you're actually paying attention to what Darko's doing, he's playing some wacky lineups at weird times. Like, this is very by design. Is he really trying to put the best optimal?
Think not.
Have Olynyk and Pirtle even shared the court for a minute? Have you even tried that? Like,
if you're Darko, why do that if you're probably going to get fired anyways, though? It's one of those weird things where unless you have you were told.
Is he not executing what you want him to do right now?
So then maybe that's why you keep it, right?
No, I don't think his job should be in jeopardy right now, just for the record.
So it would be unfair.
Real quick, 22.5. How we feeling?
I think the number.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. That's a don't touch.
Even the under. I kind of like the under now, man.
No, that's a don't touch.
Just let it be.
Here's the thing. It looks. I understand what you're saying. It looks good now. March is a very weird part of the season where you're gonna maybe fluke your way into some games. But I think you have 4 games with the Wizards left.
So come March, why aren't you shutting everybody down? Come March,
that's
really the focus.
If you want to give some betting take on it, the schedule being so bad over the next 10, you take the under now, and then you wait for whatever it is before the trade deadline.
Get it at 18.5 after
whatever
10 games from now,
because it's only going to go down.
Don't bet on their win total.
Yeah, but I won't touch it. That's a don't touch. But it is a very bad schedule.
You know what? I think I will.
Then if you do, get under. Then for sure under.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to do the over. After this conversation, you think anybody would want to touch the over now?
The biggest nightmare is them winning games in March when the games don't matter. Like that's like why? Why? It doesn't matter.
With Week 18 done in the NFL, let's ask how the New England Patriots feel about that type of thinking.
It's
right?
just mindless, right?
Yes,
it is.
Like there's one way to do it right, one way to do it wrong.
Well, I think it's much harder to do it in football.
But what I'm saying is like think about how sad that fan base.
Yeah,
is.
Organizational.
Right? Raps, don't do it.
Organizational clarity.
Alignment. Yes. Dude, that's what I'm saying. If you look at that easy stretch, Scotty, RJ quickly all could be sitting by like mid-March.
It's how you start. Everyone has to turn their keys at the same time, right? Like it's just that's what needs to be done here. Coaching staff, which again, I don't think Darko's trying to lose games. No. It's looking pretty suspect out there. But you just know, man, after like a month or two, if these guys are healthy, they're gonna start scraping out some wins against teams they shouldn't, and then we're all gonna be.
We gotta give Messiah a shout out. I hope he wields the power that we all think he does, and is able to drop the hammer down.
Well, but that's now the trade deadline is about a month. I think a month exactly away from today, or maybe it's whatever. It's pretty much a month.
Less than a month.
We are getting very, very close. There's a lot. I see you're wearing your Hemi sweater.
For you, Riz.
Take it. Just take ISO ball. Get the ISO ball animation and run with it.
It's sad that it came to this. I think you have 2 alphas in the ring. I don't want to like rehash everything, but like you got 2 alpha dogs in Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler. Things were said in the media. I think a lot of people have a problem with how Jimmy operates. The dude gets you to the finals twice in like 4 years. That should mean a lot. I respect Heat culture. I respect everything that happened there. The way it happened now does not help Miami, does not help Jimmy, in my opinion, because he has an albatross of a contract.
To lose.
That's just going to be very hard to move. It'd be a lot more amicable if him and the Heat were on the same page, if he was notifying teams that he's going to opt into his player option the next year, if he's willing to talk extension from now. But a lot of stuff happened leading up to the season. Did not happen. Did not go this way. The Heat released a statement saying they're not trading Jimmy Butler.
That lasted 3 days, yeah.
A week later, they're saying we're trading Jimmy Butler. Where he goes, based on that salary in the second apron, it is hard. It is very hard to make a trade like that because any team that wants to pile up those contracts, like a Golden State, for example, you're going to have to give up 3 really good players. Like, Andrew Wiggins is not a toss-in in any deal. He has actually been a really, really
Should
good player
you have to
year.
give up 3 really good players to get Jimmy at this point?
In order to make the salaries work?
Yes.
Yes.
No, but there's bad contracts. Like, there
are, but how many good teams have those bad contracts? So I think to me this is an opportunity for teams like the Toronto Raptors, where they have an albatross contract that they required in the Pascal Siakam trade, the Bruce Brown contract, that needs to get moved. Like, you're not going to come out of that trade and let Bruce Brown expire after in the summer you opted into his team option. So to me, you have him, you have Kelly Olynyk, who has a couple years on his deal, you got Chris Boucher, who's an expiring. How do you get involved? How do you, as the Raptors, get involved in a Jimmy Butler deal? I think to me that is the key. Now, where Jimmy goes, Memphis, Golden State, those look like ideal fits. But those teams do not have the contracts. Golden State does, but Wiggins, Gary Payton, Schroeder, Kuminga, like that's a lot.
And then you got to pay Kuminga anyways.
Yeah,
so.
And then they've held off on doing that in Golden State. How does a team like the Raptors get involved? Bruce Brown could work on a
So
contender.
what I'm hearing is Hambone wants Schroeder back on the Raptors.
I mean, if he helps them lose, great, but I do not want that. But like to me, it's just the contracts are really, really hard. Miami did not do themselves any favors with this. I still think Jimmy, even though he is old, I don't think he's all to blame here. I think Pat Riley is very much to blame. He never got Jimmy help. Like Bam Adebayo was their second guy in those
offensively, he's not that guy.
Especially this
defensively,
season,
he is, but not offensively.
So that's more of like a third guy on a team. I know I'm going.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like you can look at it both ways. I think Jimmy has earned. He should have earned some respect from the franchise for what he's done there. He showed up, as you said, 2 finals. That's not nothing.
Yeah,
that's a very impressive run, especially for a guy who was getting later into his career. However, he also has a habit of kind of coasting all season, and he's aging. And if I'm the Heat, I don't know if I want to reward him right now. Like, he's a declining asset. So do you want to be on the hook for him for 3 more years at a high salary?
So what is the asset for nothing?
I know, but it's not an asset if it's a negative asset at that point.
It got that way.
Well, what does the next contract look like for him then? Like, if you're a good team, what are you willing to pay him?
If he opts out of his player option,
like 3/120,
3/120-ish. That's like, I mean, you're paying for Jimmy Butler at 35 years of age. He's not going to play every single game in the regular season.
It's about the roster.
Yes.
So where is he going? He obviously can't be the number 1 on a championship team right now. Can he slot in as a really nice number 2? Yeah,
Or
he
number
could.
3.
But they'll need enough of the infrastructure that can carry you for the regular season, so you can be like, hey, Jimmy, just play 40 to 50 games and then be ready for
That's
playoffs.
why it's difficult. It's like a chicken and egg kind of situation.
You got to
right?
trade those salaries for him.
Exactly.
And it's like, wait, those guys are the ones going to prop us up during the regular season. So what happens here? Like, that's the question.
And what happens here?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why there's a world where nothing happens.
So, but then does this then look like, does this turn into what happened with Harden, where it's like, you have a better chance of opting into your deal next year in hopes to get dealt, as opposed to trying to hit the open market, where a team you might want to go to might not even have the cap space to bring you in?
Very good possibility that happens as well, right?
Yeah, but I think the main note here is that a third team is very likely going to have to be involved if
maybe
anything
a fourth.
does happen.
The Raptors.
Yeah, and so I mean, Raptors. Hopefully, they can find themselves to get something of value out of all of this. But that's the landscape, how the CBA is set up right now. It just we're not in an era where transactions just flying all over the place.
Unfortunately,
Next year, that has to change.
It is. They're gonna guarantee they're gonna change
like
it.
Raptors, they got like what, up to $40 million in like salaries. If you include Davion Mitchell in that, so you got Davion, Chris Boucher, Bruce Brown, expiring deals.
Yeah. If you're the Raptors, are you willing to take on maybe some bad money
For sure.
if they give you picks?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, right? So like, let's say for example, someone like Kuminga is offered up in that deal. Would the Raptors? How do they get involved is very interesting. You're either taking on long-term salary or you're taking a flyer on a young guy that may not help a contending
But
team
then
right
what are you
away.
going to pay Kuminga? Like, then
exactly.
you're,
But
You're in cap hell.
The other sneaky problem with the Raps right now is this core is not cheap.
yeah.
No.
These aren't rookie scale deals.
Yeah.
RJ is not on a rookie scale. You just signed quickly. Barnes' extension is kicking in. So it's not like these guys are in their second and third year and you're like, oh, okay, it's cheap right now.
If you add a top 5 pick to that, you're looking at a salary range between like 6 and 10. Grady Dick's extension will be coming up in 2 years. Like
That's why things are going to change.
it's just untenable, especially if you're not winning. So I think to me it's just bar none, without a doubt, you got to get off Bruce Brown.
Yeah,
you got to get
that's
something for him. How do you do that? I find it incredibly difficult based on my my scouring of the NBA trade machine. I don't know where
it's his homepage. This guy
Yeah,
logs in. It's his homepage.
it is his homepage.
Where does he go? Like, I don't see a scenario where if he's not involved, if the Raptors aren't involved in a larger deal, I don't know how they offload this guy. And if they're unable to get assets for him, I think it's a major fail.
Time will tell.
Remember when that was a positive asset?
I remember.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember that.
Yeah.
It's sad. Sad. I mean, we'll see. It's very interesting.
All right, let's talk about something happy, and that is, and if you listen to us, then you are happy too, because we told you to bet Shai MVP, and my God, have those odds flipped? Now the heavy favorite.
Fade Jokic for MVP. He ain't winning MVP. He's not gonna do it. Shai, like, I'm the value's still a little bit like low. Like he's what, plus 360 according to FanDuel. I think he's going to win MVP.
Lesson learned, audience. Listen to us.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Bet.
I mean, we haven't crossed the finish line yet, but it's looking good.
The Thunder, though, absolutely on fire. Been doing it without Chet. I heard a great stat. I think it was Tim McMahon. 27-3 when they've had one of
7-footer.
Well, 7 foot in the lineup. If
7-footer.
Hartenstein's playing or if Chet's playing, they are 27-3.
Unbelievable.
I think, yeah, the MVP, whatever. Just coast, land the plane, but.
We've said this. If the Thunder win 60,
that's it. That's all it's on.
And they're gonna win 60.
Yeah.
So I mean, we brought it up when Chet went down. We said this is actually a good window for SGA MVP if they can maintain winning. And look, they literally did exactly what we said. They're 15.
They far exceeded everything that we've said.
Their 15-game win streak, NBA Cup never happened, and you know they're the story of the NBA right now, unless you haven't been watching, as many people seem to not be.
Yeah, and in this country, Shai is probably still underappreciated.
Oh, for sure.
And you know what? Thanks to TSN and our friends at FanDuel, we have a platform, and we are going to use it. Celebrate this man, Canada, okay? Because he is the front runner for the MVP in the NBA, and that's not an easy thing to do. And he's playing like prime MJ right now. His numbers, in the late 80s, MJ numbers are very comparable to Shai. He's not Michael Jordan. I'm not saying that, please. Don't misconstrue.
Comment Fab in the comments.
I'm just saying he's an extremely efficient guard who's leading the best team in the league right now. So and defensively,
yes,
you cannot sleep on the block on Tatum.
Oh yeah,
are you kidding me? He chased down Tatum and swatted him.
MVP moment. That was an MVP moment.
Oh, yeah.
So
it was.
You know, just celebrate this man for now.
Let me ask a question then, and I'll multiple choice for the three of you. What is the reason that people don't seem to care about Shai? Is it one, he's Canadian? Is it two, he's playing in Oklahoma City? Or is it other?
No, those two are legitimate. Now you're talking about in Canada or just in general, like NBA.
This country's busy watching like hockey all the time, so who knows?
It makes
me
sick.
In the States, why isn't the NBA marketing him like the superstar that he is?
It's a great question. So I think that's a fail on the NBA. Although Wednesday night they did remove the Raptors-Knicks game for the Thunder-Cavs game, which I thought was a great call by ESPN.
That's great.
The two best teams.
Great call. Like
I don't know, the
ESPN.
two best teams.
Yeah,
maybe. It's 100%. Like Thunder didn't even play Christmas, dude. Like I think the NBA just missed the mark on this one. Shai
but why?
Shai Canadian, that helps.
Well, I think the NBA is still attaching itself to these older legends.
Yeah.
They have a
and granted, we saw on Christmas LeBron versus Curry
that
was amazing.
It was
and these guys still have juice in the tank. So I understand they're in between a rock and a hard place because the numbers are still there when LeBron and Steph play, but you're also shooting yourself in the foot when you're not marketing the newer guys who are coming up. So you kind of have to do a better job of selling the guys who are coming up while still.
You know what it is, Fab? This is 93 Bret Hart's rise as Hogan, Savage, and Macho Man are kind of moved. That's exactly what it is.
I love the reference.
So we're about to enter the NBA's attitude era.
Love the hit, man.
Listen, you have to chase the coattails of LeBron and Steph until you ride it into the ground, okay? And I think that's nothing marketing-wise. That's fair. Like they're the greatest draw you've had this century, so you have to do it. But at the same time, you have to build the funnel up, right? You can't just have no plan after these two players, these icons are gone. And so SGA not getting his love this year. Next year, if it doesn't happen, then it's like now you're taking offense. You're like, something clearly is not happening.
Other than Jason Tatum, like arguably the top 5 in the league are Jokic, Giannis, Luka, Shai. And then like
Wemby's on the come up.
Yeah.
It's like
so no Americans.
No Americans, which is a problem. Like Shai actually got like leading vote getter for guards in the West, beating Steph Curry so far through the first.
Glad he's getting recognized.
Yeah.
So I think he is getting some love. I think he's got some aura to him, man. I kind of like Shai. I think he's more interesting. Obviously, if he played in New York, different story.
Did you see he was asked the other day, and they're like, "Why don't people care?" And he's just like, "I think I'm good at basketball." So it was the perfect Shai clip.
I guess then I'd ask, where do you think you stand, like league wide?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at basketball.
You know, people say it doesn't matter theoretically, but it's true. If Shai is on the Knicks,
yeah.
if Shai is on the Lakers,
listen, man,
it's just a complete different ballgame. It's like Edwards, Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. Put Ant-Man in New York.
Oh yeah.
Put him in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Right? It just has a different feel to it.
It does. And the NBA's relied on that, like their whole like existence, right? It was LA, Boston for a long time. Philly,
but also the NBA is trying to also get away from that. So I mean, in theory, it is good to have stars in smaller markets, right? You don't want the big markets to always have all the best players.
I think you kind of do though.
But it's kind of more of like the NFL, right? Where it doesn't matter. Josh Allen plays in Buffalo.
Yeah, Mahomes
right?
plays in Kansas
Do you want
City.
him to play in New York?
It's tough. It's tough with any NFL comparison, and this is maybe the perfect segue to then talk about our final subject, which is all this ratings talk and what's wrong with the NBA, and there's too many threes. It's
I like that you did the 1950s radio
old
guy.
timey. Yeah, see. I don't know. I think people are just dumb, and you've said this the whole time. If you want to chirp last year's playoffs, go for it. Last year's playoffs were disappointing. There was a ton of blowouts.
Agreed.
But this season, the games have been awesome.
Yeah.
Look at Christmas. The Christmas games were unbelievable and just like high entertainment value. So people kind of talking me doesn't make sense because they're not consuming the product. They're not watching the games.
Two things. It's confirmation bias.
Done.
And it's just people are perpetually online. Like a report comes out and now all the things that you had maybe felt about the NBA, you're just going to repeat it because that's what you're consuming. I almost feel it's unfair to lump everyone into the same category. But I'm going to lump.
I know.
I'm going to
Doing it.
I'm lumping you, man. Like, if you watch the games, you can't come out with that opinion. Yeah, obviously when the Hornets and Bulls take like 100 threes.
Who's watching Hornets Bulls anyways? People weren't watching that game either way.
I'm saying, like, there are options. There are good games all throughout the season.
There's layers to this. So first of all, I think it's more of an American problem because internationally 100%. The game is huge. Yes. So I don't care if 10 million or 5 million Americans are watching the same game as me. I don't care.
Yeah, who cares?
It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't change what I'm watching. Also, I think there's a distinct difference between people who like basketball and like the league and people who don't and just use it as a platform to just bash the league. Listen, it's not perfect. I think we can all agree there's things that NBA could change. They could lower the amount of games.
Yes.
They could probably make small tweaks to make defense a little better.
Widen the lane. Make the lane bigger.
But you're outing yourself if you I can tell if you don't like the sport. Just don't comment on it because you're not a fan. So just watch whatever you want.
So
I don't care.
Is there bigger picture? Is there a problem with your league moving forward if fans aren't watching games in a way?
They're not watching them through a traditional means.
Yeah, well, we talked about before. Like the NBA is, I think, the most streamed league.
Yes.
The league kind of doesn't really care if you illegally stream, whereas other sports are much more strict.
There's a large number of people who are illegally watching.
Large
the
number.
NBA.
It's like probably half.
But there are also a lot of people who consume the game on YouTube online. They'll watch 10-minute highlights.
Well,
they'll think they came out watching a game, which again is a problem. But there are 82 games. To your point, I think it's a NHL problem, NBA problem, MLB problem.
Yeah.
Like what football has going for it is that every game matters. And I think as we grow as a society, there's more things to do, more things grab our attention. 82 is long. And you know what, man? If I'm an athlete, I am. But if I'm an athlete in the NBA, if I'm an NBA athlete.
You got the Riz laugh. You accomplished.
That's my goal.
Got him.
I'm going to shoot threes every game, too. You know why? Because that preserves my body throughout the season. Oh, and the analytics nerds in the front office are saying threes are better than twos. Threes are better than twos. Cool. All right, I'll take 12 a game. I'll be Ant-Man, come out and just start banging threes from beyond. If that helps preserve my body and it's the way to win games in the regular season, cool. But when playoffs come around, it's not just a 3-point jack fest. A lot of it is just playing to your strengths, taking things away from guys that they like to do. Playoffs are a beautiful game. It's a lot more physical. So if you lessen the amount of games, which again will not happen because greed, the games will matter more, and you'll see less of that stuff, in my opinion. Sorry to keep going, but You watch Jokic on any given night. You watch Shai on any given night. Wemby and Jokic had 2 amazing games back to back. Giannis on any given night. Like, even Steph is still good. Like, I just find it hard to believe. Unless the game's a blowout, which it happens, then fine, cool. Change the channel or do something else.
Yeah, you got 10 games on a Wednesday, a Friday, and a Monday. It's
just so easy to me. It's low-hanging fruit, and I think it's just people, just the mob mentality drives me off the wall. But, do you?
Yeah, look, one thing I'll say that it's fair. There aren't enough games that matter in the regular season. That's part of it. You can't fix that. I would like to see that more too as a fan, right? You want to see these guys playing at a harder, more aggressive level of play, more physicality. I think those are all arguments that you can bake into why or ways that you can improve. But it goes back to what I was saying before. Everyone is just following socially in the footsteps of what someone else said, and then you're confirmation biasing yourself. You're just being a sheep. You're just outing yourself. You're just saying what you already feel. You're not actually adding any sort of insight whatsoever. Every single person that has agreed to this, or even on a public platform where they actually have like clout and carry, I guarantee all those people that have made those comments, they haven't watched more than 5 minutes of basketball this year because they're idiots and they don't know anything about it. Okay, so for them to actually come out and make some of those comments and to have that platform to say something like that, it's incredibly irresponsible to carry that type of credibility and saying something like that, and you have no substance of research, like preparedness in doing that. Look, man, you're just outing yourself. You call other people sheep, you're doing the exact same thing.
I love Fired Up West like this. The only thing that'll get him more fired up is someone badmouths the World Juniors. That's the only thing he's more passionate about.
Don't talk about Latvia like that, all right? So, we don't talk about Latvia
let me just,
here.
I agree with everything you said. Let me just play quick devil's advocate.
It's fair, you should do it.
Over the last 2 years, in my opinion, the best basketball we've seen was in the FIBA Worlds and the Olympics. Is it a problem that the basketball played there, which is a different game than what we've seen in the NBA, was more entertaining than the last 2 NBA playoffs?
You can make tweaks. I mean, who says they don't make tweaks going forward? Would you be pro 40-minute games?
Yeah.
I mean, is that bad? I don't know. I think you might lower the amount of minutes over the course of a longer season, and maybe you get a better product on a nightly basis.
I think those are snippets in time, right? Like less
because they're one-off and they have rest, so everybody's fresh.
So last year's playoffs is a good example, right? There were a lot of, I think, bad basketball. With
having said that Minnesota-Denver series was like 10 out of 10 top tier.
Yeah, but it was just like blowout after blowout.
No, but it was still a good series. Yeah.
Like Game 7 was super intriguing. Like Philly-New York, I thought was a great series. Yeah. Like there were good, I think.
Philly-Indy until the injuries was awesome too.
I think you just.
New York-Indy until the injuries.
Yeah, New York-Indy was good. Yeah, I think you just get like random snippets. Sometimes you get like good playoffs. Sometimes you get bad playoffs. I think obviously the Olympics this summer were amazing because you had way more talent, more teams that had talent.
But even the Worlds though, man, the Worlds 2 years ago were awesome.
Yeah, so I think the thing about the Olympics that made it intriguing is it was the compete level.
Yeah,
everyone wanted to bring their best. And I think some nights in the NBA, you just don't get that, and that's fair. So how do you set up more marquee matchups, put them in a spotlight position like Boston versus OKC instead of being on the 3:30 p.m. time slot on a Sunday?
Wow.
How stupid of a time.
Connor's got a lot of editing to do.
Connor, get the bleep machine out.
But like that is a marquee game.
Yeah, ultimately, I just think if you like basketball, you're going to watch. And if you don't, you're just going to use it as an opportunity to cherry pick and bash the league because you don't really care and you don't really watch
it.
So,
once again, uninformed opinion coming out and saying all the things that you are. Like, again, listen, that's just the way the world is. You just follow in someone else's footsteps.
You should watch basketball and pods about basketball.
Well, that's the thing I'm saying. Hopefully, most of our comments will probably agree with this segment because if you went all the way to the end of this episode and you don't like basketball, you either love us or hate us. And you can love us or hate us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next week.